We're at the IXCR round number 6, Dean's Mountain. And Brandon Carter, you've sent me your resume because you've got a lot to talk about, and I think that we're all pretty impressed with what the extent of what you've done out there. And just, I don't know, give me a real quick history, for the listeners, so that we can find out, when did you start, and where do you plan on going?
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'd like to say thanks for having me, here to talk to you guys. As far as starting, I started racing, basically jumped right in and started racing the GNCC Nationals in 1995. And
how old were you then?
I was 21.
Okay.
21 when I started. I began seriously riding and competing in maybe a couple local hare scrambles at Haspin Acres in Laurel, Indiana in 1994. But I tell you what, cross-country racing and ATV racing was what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do since I was 12 years old. And I grew up west of Indianapolis, about 30 miles in the town of Monrovia, and once I moved out there when I was 12 and everybody had three-wheelers and four-wheelers, and I opened up the first edition of the first off-road magazine that I opened up and saw the guys racing in the woods on three-wheelers and four-wheelers. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
When did you start riding? I mean, you obviously somebody has to start you riding,
right?
And who was that? And what age were you?
Oh, I can clearly remember the first time. I was 5 years old, and my cousin had a Z50 Honda, and that his parents wouldn't let me ride. I could only be trailed on it. You talk about mad. And he'd trail me. My cousin would trail me around in the cul-de-sac and all this. And from that moment on, I mean, I knew that's what I wanted to do and ride. And I wanted to ride. And at that point, I was living about 6 blocks from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I'd hear the roar and sound of those cars. Nice. And be on my bicycle and all that. And it just kind of started out, at the time, it was more bicycles and wanting to race BMX at an early age. But once I jumped on that Z50, I knew I wanted to race dirt bikes.
That's awesome. And so you started racing GNCC when you were 21, and I mean you've got some results here from later on. What class did you race, and what were you riding?
When I in 1995, I entered the C class. I went and got myself a 1987 250R. That was just cherry, and jumped in the C class, and I raced every race for like 5 years of just straight. Awesome. And just kind of climbed my way up through the ranks. And
how I mean, we tried the GNCC a few years back, me and Jesse, and it was just so hard to get up the funds and the time to do that. How were you able to do that?
Oh, I tell you, I still to this day, I just I thank the guys, and I thank the situation, the way that it all worked out. But the way I knew at 12 years old I wanted to race GNCC, and I knew I was going to make it happen. I was going to do it. I told my friends, I told my family before I ever bought that first 250R, and I was going to race GNCCs. And I started going in once I bought that first 250R, and went and started going into my local cycle shop and started getting parts. The guy on the other side of the working the counter, he started racing GNCCs, or he was talking about racing GNCCs, and immediately my eyebrows just raised, and I was like, I got to get to know this guy, And with just talking with him for like 2 weeks, he just invited me to go along to the first race. And luckily, it was like round number 2 in 1995. It was round number 2, Hickory, North Carolina, and I jumped in the van with these guys. And man, I mean, from that day on, it was just 6-8 guys in a van pulling an 18-foot trailer, and off we went.
Now you said you run a lot of those hare scrambles when you was younger, a lot of local series and things like that. What was it like going from the smaller local series to the Grand National?
Well,
I mean,
well, actually, at a young age, I never raced at all at a young age. At a young age, I raced a few hare scrambles in '94 when I got that first 250R.
Yeah.
But as far as at a young age, my parents just didn't have the funds to buy me anything, and I don't know how they didn't realize my desire and what I wanted to do. I mean, my bedroom was just plastered with everything, you know, and I mean, every holiday or birthday I was begging for something to ride, you know, and so, but I never had anything to race, so it wasn't until I went to college, and I knew when I got out of college I was going to go get a 250R and start racing GNCC, so
no doubt.
Yeah, there wasn't much local hare scrambles. You know, at the time I raced, you know, Haspin Acres had a few races that I went to a few of those events, and
that was my first race, was Haspin Acres. I was 12 years old, and you know, I remember Marty Rogers. He's an A rider. He's 50 years old now, but Marty Rogers taking me, and that, I mean, you know, that did set the stage. Obviously, it set the stage for you. So, how long did you ride a dirt bike? And what, you know,
dirt bike wise, my experience on dirt bikes, my parents, they did at one point, they went, and my dad he must have bought this Suzuki 100 home that needed a bunch of work, and he brought that home, and I rode the dirt bike there at the house and stuff like that. But it was more of a thing where all my friends had dirt bikes and four-wheelers, and we'd ride, and if they didn't want to ride, I was out riding their machine on their property, or I had some property with a bunch of trails, and I would groom these trails, and groom and didn't even have anything to ride, you know. But buddies would bring their stuff over and ride on my property, and I'd ride theirs and stuff like that, and I was just in heaven. But it wasn't until I could buy my own that I set off to do it, and you know,
that's awesome. No, we talk about the GNCC, and you know, I think what Jesse was asking is, you know, what's the difference? I mean, when you're you know, I know for us, the difference in IXCR and the GNCC is numbers and mileage, you know, and
right.
You know, when you come out there, I mean, were you physically prepared to go out there and do 12 miles on a wide open highway and just get beat to death
against 700 other guys?
even back then, starting out back then, you know, you're just I guess I could say I probably was prepared. I was in awe the whole time. I mean, I remember pulling into that parking area. It was at night.
It's
in Hickory, North
Carolina.
North Carolina. I mean, it was the biggest sensation of, like, I made it, you know. And I still remember that feeling. But to get in those woods, and man, I ran right up front, and I think I bounced off of every tree there was, you know. And I'd like go back, you know, I'd go back into the lead, and then you know, bounce off some more trees, and I think I wound up losing a Kickstarter, but so I don't even know. I and finished like 5th, you know.
Wow.
But
now C-class.
But you know, the funny thing is, when you're talking about in comparison of locals and the nationals, you know, back then it was definitely huge at the nationals, but you're still talking about, it was still a group. You know, there'd be about, the numbers were about 180 was about average.
Right.
You know, rider turnout for the ATVs. You know, in those days.
Almost
so
like a local
now, so now the locals showing up to these IXCRs and these just
Midwest.
In series like this. I mean, that's about how large the nationals were back then.
Well, you know what? That makes it look. You know, maybe it's bodes good for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
The IXCR.
You know, that's where the IXCR's next step should go. You know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We might have to change the name of the series to, East XCR, EXCR.
You know, the nationals have always been and still are. I mean, premier tracks. You know, greatly groomed. The tracks back then were a lot more technical.
Right.
Which they, you know, they,
kind of like some of the more local series, where local series,
Right,
they, you know, they
right.
don't have quite as much land to donate
Right.
and things like that, so they twist
there was
the
a lot
sunflower
of
to get through there.
and when I mean technical, there was a lot of off camber. There was a lot of creek runs and creek sections,
Yeah.
hill climbs, difficult hill climbs, and
Yes.
and things like that.
The separators.
Yeah, the great equalizers.
Well, you know, you got, I mean, a really colorful history here, man. I'm reading this thing, and we're talking, you know, 2008, 2009. You're a factory Yamaha support snowmobile racer, and I mean, give me a break, man. What
Where did that lead come
where
from?
did that come from, and why? You know, why? Where did you find the snow
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do that?
Well, that kind of was a spin-off of 2004, 2005, 2006. I was desert racing, you know, so I was looking for another challenge, something I hadn't done. I had already been racing, you know, ATVs on the national level, local level, from 95 to 2004. So there was nearly 9-10 years there that I was on an ATV in the woods, and we took it desert racing for 2.5 years or so. And literally that came to an end, and I was like, you know what? I got home. I said, you know what? I've always wondered what kind of cross-country snowmobile racing there is.
Yeah.
You know, and I can still remember sitting down at the computer, and I Googled cross-country snowmobile racing, and it popped up, and I studied and took a look at it, and I was like, you know what? That's exactly what I'm talking about. I looked at the schedules and stuff like that, and I'm thinking, Fargo, North Dakota, you know, Minnesota. Like, that's a stretch,
Wisconsin?
but I tell you what, I thought that's so far out of reach. But you know what? I found an individual. He had a race team. He had one of the most professional-looking websites and race teams there were put together,
Yeah.
by the name of Chad Colby and Colby Racing, and he was out of Illinois, Peoria, Illinois. And I
Wow.
thought, you know what? If he's doing it, I could do it. And if
Right.
I hooked up with him and found out how he did it,
Right.
I could learn to do it. So I sent him a resume of what I did. And he happened to work for Arctic Cat and was like a dealer rep and really in with them, in with Arctic Cat. And he brought me right on board. I went out there with him and went riding. And he wanted to bring me on the team. And we went snowmobile racing. And I did that for 3 seasons.
How'd that work out? I mean, were you as talented in that as you are, you know, on the quads and on the dirt bike?
You know, it worked out really well. I felt like I had a lot more potential than I could show. I was really outgunned, I guess you could say, because those guys were up there. They could ride all through the week. They're riding every night. I mean, there's trails out everyone's back door up north, and so they were able to test and tune.
And where you've got the cornfields.
Right. Yeah, I'm coming home to like an inch of dusting or something like that to look at.
What was that like going from, you know, running desert races, you know, where there wasn't a drop of moisture anywhere to be seen, to running in a snowmobile, you know, the very next season? You know,
Right,
that
yeah.
had to be just a huge jump.
It was.
Did any of it correlate and switch over? I mean, could you take the
Yeah,
riding you
but
learn and
for
switch
sure,
it over?
for sure, yeah, because of the high speeds. The both, of course, we all know desert racing's high speed.
Right.
Yeah.
But I tell you, snowmobile cross country racing's super high speed. It was like a real mind over matter type of thing, because you know, I'm used to things that you're used to hitting on a dirt bike or an ATV at 50 or 60 miles an hour. You can hit on a sled at 80 and 90. You know, and I'm talking, you know, 14 inches of travel, and they're just soaking it up, and you're just, you know, you see a G out or a kicker or something, you're like, oh, and where on at 50 or 60 on a bike or ATV, you're like getting ready to pucker, but the sled would just soak it up, and you can hit it at 80 and 90.
Wow,
So,
right by.
but it was definitely flat out just wicked.
I couldn't even imagine, man. What do those things top out at? I mean,
I saw you'd see 108, 110 miles an hour all the time.
that's unreal.
They the courses up there were really set up more like in ditch lines and through fields. You would cross frozen lakes. You would drop down onto frozen rivers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It
takes a lot of the technicality out of it and makes it more endurance and concentration.
You use a lot of legs. You use a lot of legs, and the course was ever changing. It was almost like the snow was almost like riding a watercraft or something, because the snow would churn up and change and just constantly
swapping.
Yeah,
side
swapping.
to side.
Yeah, you felt like you were in Star Wars or something.
Wow.
But
that's unreal. So, two-time participant in America's longest off-road race, Vegas to Reno, 05 and 06. How, I've heard of that race. What did you do it on a quad?
Yeah, did it on a quad. Matter of fact, the Vegas to Reno is going on right now, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's did it on the ATV. It's a spectacular event.
Yeah. That must have been fun.
Yeah, it is. But pound for pound, desert racing is probably the most fun experience that I've had out of them all. I mean, it's something like where you feel like you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you pay the money. I mean, you're getting the seat time.
Right.
Not
a 2-hour race.
Right. Yeah. And a friend of mine and we put that effort together ourselves. Dave McCarroll had been out and joined up with Mike Penland on several events in his desert efforts. And
Now, Rodney, have you ever interviewed Mike Penland? We need to know that.
Yeah. Oh, he would be an excellent. He'd be an excellent
I'll bet he got
one
some
to interview.
stories.
Oh yeah. But so Dave and I, he had been out there with Mike on 2 or 3 times, I believe it was, and I went out to Dave's house one night and had a desert racing truck video that we threw in, and Dave looks at the TV and says, "You know what? We need to go do that."
Yeah.
Which was kind of my plan anyway.
Right.
But there he was. He went for it, and we had 2 months to prepare for the upcoming Best in the Desert series, which is what we chose to run. So,
mechanically or physically or both?
Pretty much all. Yeah, both. I mean, physically, I was probably already pretty close.
Yeah.
So in 2 months, this was like October, and the first race of the BITDs is in January. So Dave went out and bought a truck, a trailer. I bought a Honda, 2005 Honda. He bought a Honda. We did some slight mods. I mean, the Hondas hadn't even been out that long enough to really have
The
all these.
450R.
Yeah, the 450R. We didn't have all these mods, weren't available quite yet.
Right.
We did get the elk. Well, we eventually got the Elkas on it with Doug Roll components all the way around. But we threw a pipe on it, and we brought along Jeff Stess as a third team member. And
where's he from?
Jeff Stess is from out of Kentucky. He's a former GNCC pro.
Okay.
And him and Jeff and Dave drove the rig out to Vegas, and they just left it. They stopped off in Moab and rode and did. They took a couple dual sports out there that we kept in the trailer, and just kept it in Vegas. And we just, for the Best in the Deserts, we were just flying back and forth, and it was all business.
Was it? Did you go at nighttime too, or
as far as racing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
you had the major lighting system.
Well,
and
all
stator upgrades and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, absolutely. And almost every race starts at like 6 in the morning.
Ugh.
It didn't matter. The bikes always took off first, 6 a.m.
Wow.
So yeah, they usually started in the dark in 50, 55, 60 degree temps, and as the races would go on, you're up into 90 degree temperatures.
Wow. What? You're married, got kids, right?
Yeah.
How many kids?
I've just got one. He's 2.5.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
walking, talking, handful.
Oh yeah. That's a definite handful.
So how I am I've got an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and it is kind of hard to balance my my addiction to the sport and be a family man. How explain how that affects you and I don't get into your marriage or anything. I'm just we all know.
Well, luckily that's all good. Luckily that part of everything is good, which does play a big factor.
They're a big supporter of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But as far as raising a child, I tell you, that's challenges that are going on right now. That just makes everything extremely difficult.
Yeah. I can just imagine, man, having a 2.5-year-old again. It just
yeah. Yeah,
and all about being run ragged.
Right, and that's seriously how I feel. Like it used to be, before my little boy came along, it was what nights of the week am I going to go up to the Bowman's, or what night am I going to get out in the garage and get some wrenching done? And now it's what 15 minutes can I scoot out there and get this and that done? My wife will take him in for a bath or something, and I'm like, well, I think I can go out there and put a set of grips on, or something like that. So
yeah, it's hard to keep me out of the garage, I'll tell you that.
I think that's where most racers live at anymore.
Yeah.
Especially the privateers.
Yeah. But
starting out, that's pretty much where everybody lives at. It's right there in the garage, hunkered over that bike, just wishing it'd run right.
What speaking of privateers, I mean, do you have any backing right now? You're racing quads now. How long have you been racing quads?
This will be, I believe, 13 years I've been racing quads.
Okay.
And then I've been racing off-road for this, I believe it's my 18th season of just if you include be 15 years of racing quads, because the 2 years of desert, 2.5, 3 years of desert racing,
right.
But it was 12 years of racing quads in the woods.
Right. What do you prefer? Quad? I mean, you're obviously there now, with the quads. So I mean, what if you had a chance to throw a leg over either one here, what would it be?
A leg over a
dirt bike or a quad?
Oh, a dirt bike or a quad?
Yeah.
I
mean, really, we're quad radio here, so
yeah,
we're not going to form your opinion for you.
Right. They both have their pros and cons, and I absolutely love quads. There's some. I love bikes too. I love bikes too. They're just as bad as a machine as an ATV. But now that I am looking at the bikes a little more seriously now for several reasons, and maybe wanting to transfer over onto the bikes and bring my little boy up on the bikes,
How we were all raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never got away from it.
You gotta learn to fall before you can stand up.
That's
right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm still learning to fall.
Score. 3-time score, international Baja participant. Okay, and that's looks like you took a break between 06 and 10, and what's score? I mean, the score stands for
just Score International Baja Desert Series.
Okay.
That's all scores all down in Southern California and into Baja, Mexico.
Goes into Mexico.
Yeah, we did the first in 2005. The desert effort that myself and Dave McCarroll put together. We did the complete season of the Best in the Deserts in 2005, and then Mike Penland brought Dave and I on for a Baja 500 effort that he had going. So we went from the Best in the Deserts, and we did the Baja 500 with Mike Penland. And then that led into 2006. Dave and I transitioned and started racing down in Baja. And then at that time, I met Ed Texera in 2005 with the desert racing. So I made a trip or two out with him and did some desert racing on some efforts he had going.
That's just awesome, man. I couldn't imagine. What makes you I mean, have you? How many IXCRs have you made this year?
I've made every one. I've made I've made every IXCR this year. I just want to race as much as I possibly can. And
That's awesome.
I mean, there's been years when I could only race 6 or 8 races, you know, but I'm always giving it everything I've got. You know, I mean, if I only raced 8 races that year, that's because, man, that was all I could physically squeeze in, or I could do, or financially I could do. I mean, I'm thinking of racing every 3rd minute of my life. I mean, I really am. I mean, it's a true sickness. I mean,
Yes, it is. I know that feeling.
From 5 years old, and I'm not exaggerating. From the first time I hopped on that mini bike, man, that's all I've thought about for 34 years since. And it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
I agree.
So at this point, it doesn't matter if it's a dirt bike, a quad, a snowmobile.
Almost seems like it just gets worse, doesn't it?
Yeah,
The older you get, the more you want it.
You know, and that's true. That's true, because now, you know, at being at age 39, it's just like, how much longer am I going to do this? How much longer can I do this, or keep this up, or keep that going? And it's just, you enjoy it. It means more to me now than even it did at 29. It's a complete different desire or passion, you know. I mean, at 21, 25, you're just out to beat everybody, and you're riding with all this aggression, and now I just truly enjoy it, you know.
That's the answer I was looking for, man. To be honest with you, I don't think you could have said it any better. You know, I grew up on a farm. My grandpa bought me a Z50 when I was 2 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my start, and got the bug. And you know what we're talking about here is something that, you know, everybody that listens to quad radio out there is going to be able to relate to.
Right.
And that's what I love about this, man. And we relate to it, and you were telling it. And you know, have you hit all the GNCCs this year?
I knew going into this season I was going to have to pull back a little bit for just you know, for some family, you know, to be there with the family and not be on the road so much. My wife went to working weekends, so you talk about a whole nother hurdle to, and so now it's just me and my little boy on the weekends. So I knew going in, I was going to have to skip probably North Carolina and South Carolina. But I knew I could talk my wife and the in-laws and everybody into a Florida vacation.
Yep.
So I knew if I got Florida and Georgia out of the way, I was going to be sitting pretty good. Right. So I did need to skip North Carolina and South Carolina, and
Steel Creek and Big Buck.
Yep. But I've hit them all so far, other than North Carolina, South Carolina, and I had to something came up and I had to miss the West Virginia round.
Snowshoe.
No, I got to go to that one. The one, race or two before Snowshoe. It was a new one.
Yeah, it's a new one. I can't think.
Yeah,
man.
That's all right.
But you've made what? How many GNCCs this year?
It's been about 8 so far.
8 of them. Okay.
About maybe 7.
Are these this is 2011 results?
Yeah.
You know, how have you been doing? I mean, you're in the pro class.
No. In the nationals, I actually run the senior class.
Okay.
They changed which was kind of funny. They changed the age requirements from 40. You had to be 40 to run the senior class to 38 plus.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I didn't know they had done it. And hey.
I'm all over that.
I was already saying, you'll be right there with you.
Right. Well, me and Todd Demery were standing at the first IXCR there at the Badlands, and he said, you know, Todd Demery's older than I am. So he said, you know, they changed the age requirements for the vet class. And I said, oh yeah. And he said, yeah, the vet class went from 30 plus to 28 plus. And I said, really? He said, yeah. And they changed the senior class from 40 plus to 38 plus.
Wow.
And I said, I'm 38. And,
is it senior A?
Yeah, senior A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now they made me feel much older than that much quicker. You know, I was kind of looking forward to getting into the senior class, and it just happened quicker. So
See, I noticed now. I ran C last year.
okay,
This year I run vet.
right.
And I thought that I was going to have, a little bit more advantage. I'm getting older, but I'm actually getting in better shape. I thought I'd be able to go against, guys my age, that work a normal job and everything else. I thought it was going to be a little bit easier. Well, I actually found out that that's a lot harder this year for me because a lot of the riders are more seasoned. I mean, they have the experience. A lot of the times, when I go out there, I'm just running the regular C class. They're younger guys. They've got the stamina, they got the endurance and everything else, but they don't have the seat time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the same thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I came back to cross country woods racing in 2009, I jumped into the vet class, and the vet class, as I remembered it, when I was in some of the lower ranking classes, looking at those vet classes, now it's just solid, it doesn't
riders.
matter. Yeah, it's just solid riders. It doesn't matter what class you're in,
It's
but
the guys that have lasted it out.
yeah. But jumping into that vet class, I mean, you just have guys they don't make mistakes. They ride smooth, they ride fast, and they ride hard. And it's the same way with the senior A class. It's tough.
That's incredible, man. We're not there yet, but like I said, I'm approaching it here in a year, and I'm 37 next month. So, but I feel you. You got a lot going on here, man. What I guess you talk about you want to do this every day. You want to go out and do it as much as physically possible, financially possible. But where is it gonna stop? I mean, do you have goals to attain? I mean, how talk about what you want out of it and what you want your kid to see you getting out of it.
Man, that's just exactly it. After with all the places that I've been and all the racing that I've done, it's just I've always had this desire to want to do something to impact the sport, maybe help elevate it the best that I can. I mean, I'm just a grain of salt in this whole world of off-road racing, but it's like, what can I do to make an impression on the sport that I love? So I kind of want to do something like yourselves, just get more involved with the sport to help do something to elevate it, rather than that be create a team, start a team, but to race, it's just, it requires so much that I'm kind of wanting to branch out a little bit and try and build something and watch it grow.
That's kind of where I'm thinking, and it's exactly what I hoped you'd say, because I think that quads, dirt bikes in most areas have a bad rep, and what we set out to do back in '07 when we started Banged Up Racing was to promote the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it wasn't about let's get the best riders out there, which obviously we don't have. We've got guys who love to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're nice guys. They got great attitudes. They help each other out. We get them to the track. We help fix their bikes. And it's all about letting everybody know that it's fun, and we're not doing any harm. We're bringing money to the local economies when we come into town. There's just I don't think GNCC would have never been this big had there not been people like us promoting it.
Right.
People who truly love the sport.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can do everything we can to help out the AMA and get the AMA needs help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're obviously they're losing sanctioning in several different series, and you know, the AMA is the one who keeps our trails open.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So you know, I'm hoping that we can find more people like you to be more involved with that end of it. I know we love racing, but we'll never ride. It'll all close down if we don't get more involved
and attitudes like ours are infectious. The more people you get around, the more people you know really bring the light to, and show them what this sport's about. You know, it just consumes you. So I mean, you know, the more people we can give this to, show them to, the better. It's just going to grow. It's just going to get better and better as we go.
So, and as far as dirt bikes and ATVs go, it's in, you know, it's a form of grassroots racing, and in this economy, you know, it's still it's awfully expensive. We all know that any form of racing is expensive, but this is still something that you know, parents can still go buy their children, you know, hopefully afford a four-wheeler, an ATV, you know, dirt bike, and go racing and have fun, and you know, it's grassroots racing, so it's a start, you know.
Yeah, and even with the economy down, the used machine market is sky high right now, and there's no reason to just put your wallet away, you know. I mean, you got to think that when it does bounce back, that you know, you're gonna have a flood of used machines that you can get for nothing, you know, for dirt cheap, and that's
right.
You know, that's the stuff I love, man. You get somebody, you know, with some cheap equipment that you can get people started riding on, and just like you, man, you know, you didn't start on a brand new machine, you know.
No.
You know, so man, it's just been it's been a long haul for you, obviously, man, and it's great to see somebody like you that really loves the sport, man.
Yeah, well, hey, I appreciate it.
So,
I appreciate it.
Is there anything else you want to talk about out there, you know, over the waves, you know, before we go? And
not to put you on the spot.
Get it out there now.
No pressure.
Right. Not really. I'm not answering it. Like, there's so much we can talk. Maybe we stay up here all night until the sun comes up, talking shop, and
that's one of the downfalls to having a bunch of riders in one room. We'll bench ride till the sun comes up.
Yeah. I know that Rodney, you know, he's going to edit this out, whatever. But he wants some real talk, and that's, you know, hopefully what we've done here. And I'm really glad you came. You came forward.
Well, heck yeah. Well, yeah.
It's awesome meeting you.
Yeah.
You've got a really decorated history here. I mean, this is probably what most racers, you know, would dream that their resume would look like one day.
Yeah.
Really.
You know?
Well, I appreciate that. I tell you, it's just, I just have these desires to just go out and do more and more and more. I mean, for this next year, you know, with the family and commitments and everything, it's so hard to even get to these local races week in, week out,
right.
and the time in the garage. And I don't portray myself as a professional mechanic. I mean, right. I can get it done. I can get the prep work done. But my thing is training. I mean, I love to train. I'll train 4, 5, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's me. That's my thing. I want to be out training, and it's just so hard to do it all. To work full time, to train full time.
Right.
You know, prep your bike. I mean, it takes
and then find time to ride it.
And then time to ride it, and then that's just more prep. You know. And so to get all that done, just to get to a local race, it's so difficult and hard to do. So just kind of at a point where it's kind of like with what I've done, with where I've been, and with what I've done, I'm trying to get this all incorporated to where it's like I'm racing less, but I'm doing more larger, more epic events.
Yes.
Right.
You know,
being
so
able to get more involved.
Yeah, I'm wanting to tie in. In my perfect world, it would be where I'm racing a a different machine in all seasons of the year. You know, I'm racing snowmobiles up here, you know, in the winter, and in the spring and summer I'm racing ATVs or dirt bikes. I want to race it all. You know, and I've got these plans in my head of how I can get that done. So that's what that's where the racing the dirt bike in the future kind of comes in, to where, because it just fits a schedule a little bit better. I could get to all the GNCCs on a dirt bike and maybe race Sunday AM, and I can travel Saturday to the GNCCs, race a dirt bike Sunday AM, and still get home and never use vacation time.
Right.
To maybe then use that vacation time to travel out west and go desert racing, or go up north and go snowmobile racing. So that's kind of.
What do you do? I mean, what do you do for a living?
I work basically for the Indianapolis Water Company. So travel downtown every day and work downtown, and then I live out 17 miles west of downtown Indianapolis, out by the airport. And you know, it's pretty wild right now. I mean, I feel like I'm in a pretty neat place, where with the Bowmans, I've known Tim Bowman and Michelle Bowman, the owners of the IXCRs. You know, I've known them since '09, since I came back into cross-country ATV racing. And
we all love the Bowmans. Yes,
and
we
here,
do.
you know, they haven't never say a bad word about anybody.
No,
and you talk about a laid-back family just wanting to have fun and get out in the woods and ride. That's the Bowmans.
Couldn't ask for nicer people, and just about everywhere they go, they make a friend.
Yeah, right. And then at the same time, with work, you mentioned work. I work with two guys whose father owns another local Indiana cross country series. So I have this tie at work. There's like 5-6 guys at work that all race and ride. And
it helps to be submersed in the culture. You know, and that's because if you're by yourself, and that's why, you know, people have teams. If you're by yourself, you're not going to do it, man. And it's really great, man. And I want to encourage anybody who's listening out there: find yourself a team, get on that team, and work towards just the goal of getting there. And doing it.
Enjoying.
Well, Brandon, it was great talking to you, man. We had a good weekend out here, and you finished 7th overall out here, and that's saying a lot, man, with the caliber racers we got out here. So I just want to take this time and see if there's anybody that you'd like to thank out there for your illustrious career, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. I'd like to take the time to thank some family and friends that have supported me the last 4 years at least, and got me to at least to this point. And I got to thank my wife and her parents for they traveled to the races with me, and they're behind me 100%. And some sponsors are Ori Grips, Cycra, Precision, Texera Tech, Fox Shocks, Hyper Wheels, Clark Tanks, Wiseco, SDG Seats, Recluse, Scott, Jet Suspension, Team IXCR, Streamline Brakes, Wide Open Motorsports, EVS, Dryer Cycle Indianapolis, and Core Power Sports.
Great. Thanks a lot, Brandon, man. It's been great to meet you, and hopefully, you know, we'll have another meeting out here and at the next IXCR.
Yeah, 10-4, likewise, fellas.
We'll see you,
All
man.
right, see you, Mike.